Hey everyone, and welcome to this review on the Audi RS2 Avant. We haven't covered any station wagons on this series yet, and I feel like this is a great one to start with. The RS2 was built by Audi in partnership with Porsche and houses a 5-cylinder turbocharged engine in its all-wheel drive chassis. In its stock form, this Audi pushes over 300 horsepower, can do 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, and it's been said that off the line, it's faster than a Mclaren F1. We'll have to put that to the test later. This wagon has gained a massive cult following over the years and is often at least partially credited with establishing the concept of the luxury sport wagon. This considered though, the RS2 never sold that well and are increasingly hard to find today, even in Europe. I'm really excited to get this car on the road and see how it drives and what we can do to it under the hood, so let's pause for a second to let the engine do the talking while we take it out for a test drive. That sounds not bad. It does have the crackle, which is kind of silly for the stock car, but it's not the usual exhaust crackle we get. This one's much poppier. I'm gonna like that when we put some more power under the hood too. And the actual engine note is pretty good as well. So, on to how it drives. Pretty well, and honestly pretty unique. I have driven, obviously, a lot of cars like we all have in our Forza careers, and it's always nice when, even just through an Xbox controller, you can feel the unique characteristics of a car. Forza has always been pretty good at that. This Audi RS2 feels weighty, you can really tell the body is fighting with the suspension to keep the car on the road, and although understeer is typical of many daily driver all-wheel drive cars, it's usually felt more through the corner entry, whereas here, initial steering response feels quick, but it's mid-corner where the understeer creeps in. Luckily, that should be an easy fix and seems to show that there's a good base to work with here. So I'm very curious to see what we can get out of this car. It does start near the bottom of B class, so I'm gonna shoot for a B class tune and see if we can take it anywhere else from there. But first, the most important question must be answered. Can this Audi station wagon beat a Mclaren F1 off the line? Well, there you have it. In my very scientific test there, the Audi RS2 does in fact beat out the McLaren F1 for about 50 yards before the F1's grip and power overtakes. But now let's get under the hood of the RS2 and see what we can do to make it even quicker. And you'll see right off the bat that we have wheel spacing options. Did not expect that at all for this car. Very happy to see it. Now, I'm not expecting anything in the way of aero 2, and it seems like that's what we're going to get. That looks honestly terrible on this car in my opinion, and that wing looks pretty bad as well. A bit of a bummer, but what do you expect? Finally, for engine swaps, it looks like we have one option available. We can go with the inline-4 turbo rally engine. Would be pretty fun, I'm sure, for an off-road build. And then, of course, we can swap to rear-wheel drive. So I'm going to go ahead and see what I can make of this car and be back with you guys in a second. And we're back in the Audi RS2 Avant with a B-Class road tune pushing 330 horsepower and weighing in at just under 2,800 pounds. For this build, we've kept the stock tires, added a little bit of power, but spent most of our focus on reducing as much weight as possible and getting that suspension figured out. So this build runs about 700 pounds less than the stock car, and as you can see, the suspension is a lot stiffer and the ride height's a lot lower. We've added some chassis reinforcement as well to help with body roll and chassis flex. And with all those things considered, you end up with a great B-Class station wagon. This is a quick car and it handles great. It's all-wheel drive, so you know it's going to be grippy and you don't have to worry too much about your throttle control. And you'll remember earlier I was talking about how the understeer was a bit unique in that it happens more mid-corner. Well, that's gone with this build. I actually don't think I've driven many cars that corner as consistently as this one does. Most every car will kind of adjust its understeer or oversteer based on how much throttle you're giving your car, how you enter the corner with your weight shift and the body roll. This car just turns consistently no matter how you enter a corner, whether or not you're on or off the gas, it's always giving you a consistent steering output. And that makes this car such a breeze to drive. You really don't ever undershoot or overshoot corners because you know what you're getting into, and you can get on the power so much sooner through the corner because you know you're not going to understeer towards the outside. Although the car is still a bit on the heavy side, you really can't tell anymore with the stiff suspension, and the 330 horsepower is pretty respectable for a B-class build. So let's go ahead and see how respectable it is by seeing how it does on our leaderboard. Now we still don't have much to compare to here, but in our last review we did a B-class tune on the Mitsubishi GTO, which ended up with a time of 249.442. And during the lap here, I was expecting a time close to that. The Audi RS2 Avant did the lap in 246.259. We are inching ever closer to the bottom of A-class here, and we just did it with a station wagon. So I think it's needless to say here that if you're looking for an easy to drive off-meta B-class racer, this is a pretty good choice. But that is only one of the tunes I came up with. I wanted to do an A-class road tune as well, but in another first for car review history, we're taking things off-road. The Audi was begging for a rally tune, so I started building one for B-class, but ended up pushing it all the way into A-class where it sits beautifully. That consistent steering that makes the car so good on-road makes the car even better off-road. Rally is all about managing your grip and throttle and the balance between oversteer and understeer. And the fact that this car is just able to consistently deliver steering response and grip throughout a range of throttle inputs means that this car is just so easy and so fun to drive off-road. For this build, we weren't able to shave too much weight off the road tune, but we have gone with upgraded brakes and a lighter rim. The biggest change here is the obvious addition of more power, coming in just under 400, and the increased grip through rally tires and rally suspension. I took the RS2 into A-Class Rally Rivals on, I believe it's called the Tarnhaus Scramble, I'm probably butchering that name, but the car did great. After only a few laps, I was sitting well under the top 10% in Rivals, and my best lap had quite a few mistakes. I could definitely shave some more time off of it and get under that top 5%. So this car gets another recommendation when it comes to rally. Now let's head over to the Hoki score and see how the RS2 fares there. So let's take a look at a few of the scores here. You can see that I gave it a 9 for fun. Looking back to my GTO review from a few weeks ago, I said that car was really easy to drive and that's what made it fun too. This car feels like that, but just a little bit more. It's that cornering consistency that makes this car so good. For competitive, you can see I gave it a 9 for rally and an 8 for race. It's getting that high rally score because I was able to push it into the top 6% of rivals after only a few laps. And that's with a not super competitive tune and a pretty mistake-filled lap. I'm positive that with a few tuning adjustments and some more time to set a better lap, this car could easily get in the top 3% or even higher. And that brings us over to the right side of the board where we have a flexibility score for the RS2 of 5.9. I wish it would be higher because it does perform so well in both rally and race, but it's the lack of customization and lack of proficiency in other areas that hurt the score here. Moving down to style points, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 2. It's not the best looking car, but it doesn't look bad. It's pretty damn cool if you ask me. And there's quite a cult following around them. So most people might think you're just pulling up in a random station wagon, but for those who know, they know. And with all that said and done, we end up with a Hoki score for the Audi RS2 of 65.4. And that puts us kind of right into a gap in the scoreboard here. We have our high-end cars pushing over 70, and then the more purpose-built or kind of worse cars under 60. So the Audi squeezes right into that gap, and I think that's a very respectable score for the Audi. So it's rare that I come out of a car review not recommending the car, but this is another one of those cases where if you are looking for another fun car to drive, I do recommend this one, especially for rally. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.